Hi, everyone, and welcome to 10 Ways to Improve Your LinkedIn Career Results. I'm actually coming to you not from Melbourne today, I'm in Sydney, so apologies for the bedroom background I've got today, but I wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to see this. This event is also part of National Career Development Week, so if you'd like to look at the careersweek.com.au website, you'll see other events related to your career over the next couple of weeks during May 2024. So this is a 30-minute webinar. Questions are most welcome in the chat, and it is going to include both specific tips and some relevant examples for you. The slides and the recording will be on my website within the next hour. So if you need to leave, you can always rewatch it or watch it for the first time there on my website. For those of you who don't know me, my career started out in banking at Westpac in Adelaide. I worked there for 11 years in lots of different roles before I moved to Melbourne, and I haven't had a real job since. So I've done lots of different things. I'm a member of lots of professional associations. Big shout out to the people who know me, who've seen me in other presentations. Great to have you with me. My first website, newcomersnetwork.com, went online in 2001, and I joined LinkedIn in 2003, been consulting on it since 2008, and have written 2 books on LinkedIn, but 5 books overall. I will be sending these files to you as a participant from the event, the usernames and password spreadsheet, which all my clients have said has been the best thing I've ever taught them to do, is to collect their passwords and have a record, particularly now with the risk of cybersecurity and so on. LinkedIn statistics and backup spreadsheet, all the things, and there's a workshop happening on Saturday if you would like to meet me in person live. Now, every time I run one of these, I've been running these events every month since October 2021, I include my social media statistics. So if you go back and see in the old ones, you can see how many followers, subscribers that I had back then. And these are the ones from the end of last week because I was preparing this before I came to Sydney. And one of my most recent presentations was for the Golden Key International Honour Society about self-sufficiency strategies. So if you're a member of Golden Key Academy, you can log in and listen to the video, but otherwise you can check out the slides on my website. There's the 5 books, which you can buy via my website or the 120 Ways Publishing website. And this is the 5th book. And I've written an online course to go with it. It's only $97, includes the book itself and then videos on how to do all the things that I suggest in it. So whether you're a practitioner or an individual, this will be the step-by-step guide for you to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Sadly, I heard yesterday somebody paid $2,000 to have their LinkedIn profile written for them, which included a whole bunch of information they'd never done. So I do not recommend getting someone to do your LinkedIn profile for you. You can get someone to help you with it, but ultimately you're the only one who knows what you've done in all of those roles. Unless AI develops the ability to read your mind, then I guess that could be useful for you. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on where we're all based. I would love to know what's been most helpful to you from this webinar. So if you can share that in the final exit survey, that would be fantastic. Look for some way to say thank you. My mother taught me it's very important to say thank you. You can buy a book, follow me on social media, provide me with a LinkedIn endorsement or recommendation, or a Facebook or Google review, and I'll give you some QR codes you can scan for that. If you're watching this later, some of the screens may have changed, but first of all, I'd love to know from you, why are you here? What type of career results do you want on LinkedIn? Are you looking for a new job in the same field? Are you looking for a new job in a different field? Are you looking for a promotion or a different role in your current organisation? Because let's face it, people are going to check you out and decide whether you're worth a promotion by visiting your online presence. I mean, you can go to a party and people will Google you on their phone, in the bathroom. Do you want more aligned gigs? Do you advise other people on how to use LinkedIn, or is there something else? So if you'd like to put a number in the chat, that just gives me a bit of a clue as to where you're from. So Fiona's looking for tips to improve your profile. Well, there'll be quite a few of those, although a lot of the other LinkedIn Insight webinars go to specific industries. So you might want to check out some of those as well. So if any of you got any other number you can pop in, or just a comment to make an impressive profile on LinkedIn, good on you, Manisha. The main benefit of LinkedIn is not to be impressive, but to be found. So you really need to think about your keywords. What words do you want to be found for, and making sure they are included in the optimum positions. So if you can do that, that's going to make your your LinkedIn profile work for you, which is really the main goal. Megan wants to help clients to develop their profiles. Excellent. It was really interesting. Before I started preparing these slides, I actually put it into Microsoft Copilot, which is my favorite AI or generative AI tool. And what it produced was nothing like what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So, a lot of what I teach is based on actual usage of the platform since the year 2003. So, it's not just information based on a data set and a probability equation. So, yeah, you'll definitely get some there. Career practitioner at a university. Thank you, Beth. Advising others on optimum profile. Any new features on LinkedIn? Yes, Jenny, it's always changing. There's always new features coming up. Assisting others. Oh, so I've got lots of people helping others. Terrific. Checking out for myself and also to see it's maybe relevant to my employees. Yes, I did a presentation at a school here in Sydney yesterday, and the principal got up and said at the end, because it was one for the staff, both teaching and non-teaching staff, oh, this is not so you can get another job. We all want you to stay here. But look, even if you're in your job, it's a really good thing to have an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. And because you're going to network, you're going to be researching, you're going to be doing other things in your working life, not just looking for a job. So I want you to get beyond the idea that LinkedIn is just for looking for a job. It's actually a very powerful tool. Checking out for myself and also to see, yep, I've already read that. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for those contributors. So these are the 10 things I'm going to go through. Obviously, the number one priority in my mind is always to complete your LinkedIn profile, but we'll also be looking at developing a connection strategy and how you share content and your skills and mentions, your education and training, lots of bits and bobs here. So let's get straight into it. Now, one of the most obvious things is to complete your LinkedIn profile. And there's a button on your profile which says Add Profile Section. And if you expand that button out for all the categories, core, recommended, and additional, you will see that there are multiple sections. Now, if you want to stalk me after this event, by all means do. I have filled in every section except the patents one. And the reason I haven't filled that in is because I don't have a patent, but every other section has been completed. So if you want to say, well, what do I have to fill in? These are all the sections. And it's really important because if an employer is looking for someone or even to consider you for a promotion, a lot of those positions are not advertised because they'd have to come up with a position description, they'd have to get it approved, they'd have to put the job ad out, they'd have to deal with 300 applicants. It's a very time consuming process. But if you can just ask some employees, is there anyone you know? If you can get referrals, if you can send it to a couple of people and ask them for referrals, bingo, the job can be filled and you don't have to deal with those 300 applicants. So nobody can predict how many jobs are not advertised, but I've heard various numbers, right up to 90%. And if your LinkedIn profile, the way to tell whether your profile is working for you or not is if you're getting at least 100 views per 90 days and at least 50 appearances in search results. So if you're assisting someone and they don't have numbers above that, their LinkedIn profile needs work. So when you start working them, you write those numbers down, then you help them optimize their LinkedIn profile, and then 3 months later you check their numbers again and you'll see that those numbers come up. And I believe it is not what you know or who you know, but who or what refers you. So it could be a person, it could be a search result, it could be a Google query, who knows? Search result being on LinkedIn, Google being elsewhere. But when someone finds you, how can they verify that you have the capabilities that they're looking for? So that is my belief on the way the world of work is going. I also believe we're going to need to use technology to attract aligned gigs. So that's just not a job, it's any type of work opportunity, because AI is definitely taking away some of the tasks that we would normally do and reducing the time it takes to do some. Now, the next thing is once you've got a great profile, you need to have a connection strategy. So the minimum number of connections I'd recommend you have is 60. The next number to aim for is 500. And from now on, my 3 favorite words, not I love you, from now on, I want you to connect with every single person you meet, whether that be in person, online, email, text message, chat message, phone call, you name it. From now on, everyone you meet, invite them to connect with you on LinkedIn. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and then I'll get somebody say, Sue, I first met you 8 years ago, and now I'd like some LinkedIn help. You just never know when something is going to happen. And the benefit of having a LinkedIn profile is you don't have to call them up and send them a Christmas card every year. You just keep posting, and if they want to see what you're up to, they can just check out your LinkedIn profile. So if you have some people that are really important to you, I call them your VIPs, very important people, you can click their notification bell, and then you're more likely to see their content in your news feed. So that's going to be important. And you can use the scan QR code feature on your phone via the search box and the dots on the right, or via the My Network button and the blue little man that appears. You can use the scan code feature. If you press the three dots, not the big blue button, the connect or follow button, but the three dots next to it, or the more button, you can personalize the invitation and say how you met them. So if they forget your name, they can at least remember how they met you. Now, the next thing is the algorithms within all of the social media platforms are trying to work out what is of interest to you. So if you've identified some companies or organizations where you would like to appear in their search results, you need to follow those companies or schools if they're a university or secondary school or something like that. There could be groups you could join, there could be content that you can react to, you can make comments on things. But sometimes my clients ask me if I'll share their post. Well, if it's not related to what I do, I don't share it because that confuses the algorithm. It's not related to what I do. So again, you've got to remember that social media is a megalomaniac. More people, more often, for longer. So if you contribute to the platform and you listen by reacting or commenting, then the platform says you're a nice person, you support other people's content. So when you produce content, we'll be more likely to share that with more people. So remember, you need to listen as well as speak. And if you're doing it in relation to your employer, so you need to click the notification bell on your employer, it's called employee advocacy, because somebody is more likely to believe something shared or commented on by an employee than they are just coming directly from the company. The next thing is, when LinkedIn first came out, it was basically just an online resume and a job ads platform. That was it. But over time, it has morphed into a publishing powerhouse. But also, what we are starting to understand now is people have found, not based on their job title or the fancy company they worked for, but by the skills they bring. So you can add up to 50 skills on your LinkedIn profile. It might be time to edit some of those out, things you don't want to be hired for. But what you can do is you can add individual skills to the About section, your top 5, your experience for every single role, the licenses and certification sections, the education section, and the projects section. So you want to attach the skills that are related to those, and that's really going to optimize you. And also, if you work with people and they have skills, you might like to endorse their skills. So also, for women especially, you only need 60% competency to apply for a role. So don't assume you have to have 99.9% of the skills before you apply for a role. If you've got 60%, go for it. And yeah, we're very much becoming skills based going forward. Now, the next thing is to update your education and training. And I know a lot of you would have completed formal education, and most people list the course that they've done, but not the subjects. And most of the clients that I work with have never, ever entered their subjects. But I also recommend they include some topics, because one of the subjects I did was business ethics. And if I wanted a board position, I'd have to be across governance, risk, and compliance. And that was included in my business ethics subject. So I have also mentioned that. Likewise, maybe you start university and you don't finish the course, but you've still finished 2, 3, 5, 10 subjects. Again, you could say subjects completed, and that's not lying. And then you end up as an alumni of that education provider, and that's very helpful to you as well. If you have LinkedIn Premium, you can access LinkedIn Learning and do lots of amazing short courses. They're very American style, but they're really comprehensive, great videos, great structure, really good quality. Or if you are looking for a micro credential that you don't even have to pay for, you can use something like MOOCs, mooc.org, and you can do those little micro credentials. So there's no need to sort of say, oh my goodness, I want to change careers and I now need to enroll in a 6-year course and it's going to cost me $70,000 and before I can change. No, consider micro credentials, little short courses that will upgrade your skills, and add those to your LinkedIn profile. Colin said, added the subjects in my LinkedIn profile after the first presentation I saw you give. This is a great recommendation. Donna's saying, great tips. Excellent. Oh, I love a bit of interaction during the webinar. Fantastic. So, and also, I'm a woman of a certain age, and if you are also a person over 35, which is when we're considered to be old, you need to show that you're willing to learn. So a little micro credential is a really great way to update your education section and show that you're a willing learner. Now, the next thing is to both give and receive recommendations. These are like online references that work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You want to both give and receive at least 6 of them, and you want to talk to what you have observed from the person. Now, the example I like to use is a project manager, and we've all known that person you've worked with. They were on time and on budget, but they were horrid to work with. So you would not say that that person was a good project manager. You would say, I worked with them on a project and they were on time and on budget, and I wish them all the best in the future. You wouldn't say that they were good because that wasn't what you observed. Anything you put in writing, email, text, recommendation on LinkedIn can be used in court. So you want to make sure what you're saying is correct. The website for short courses, MOOC, mooc.org. It's on the slide there. But also don't forget LinkedIn Learning, you can access via LinkedIn Premium, or in Australia, if you have a local library card, you can also access the LinkedIn Learning courses there. When you complete a LinkedIn Learning course, it appears in the licenses and certification section, not in your education. So you might want to move it to education or courses, if it's really relevant to what you're trying to secure in terms of work. You can also be strategic when you're writing recommendations. And if you know someone who's really high profile, like your boss, and lots of people look at the boss's profile and you've written them a recommendation, that can look good for you, and everybody gets to see you when they look at that profile. And likewise, you can ask that high profile person to write one. I had a lawyer tell me once, because I saw this person who had 160 recommendations they'd received and 0 that they'd given. And I thought, that's a pretty rude person. But the lawyer said, well, clearly nobody asked him to write a recommendation, which I thought was a very good comment from a lawyer. So don't be afraid to ask. Also, a lot of people don't write them because A, they weren't asked, or B, they don't know what to say. So when you do make that request, if you can perhaps talk about some of the things you'd like the person to discuss in that recommendation. Skill endorsements are quick and easy, but that recommendation adds that extra value. Now, if you start applying for jobs on LinkedIn, you can attach, as that screenshot there shows, something called a resume. And this is one document. It's not a cover letter and a resume, it's just one document. So I recommend to all of my clients to create what I call an application. And the first page is their cover letter and the rest of it is their resume. But the entire document is created specifically for that role. So when the person looks at their application document, like our resume, they actually see everything, and everything that they wanted to say is included. So what I do when I work with my clients is I get them to write a comprehensive resume. It could be 10 pages, it doesn't matter, that includes everything they've ever done. And then when we apply for specific roles, we chop it down to focus on the information that's relevant for that particular position, add on that cover letter on the front page, and then attach that. Now, everybody who I've done that with has told me that they've received an interview as a result of attaching that personalised document to their job application. So please keep that in mind. Also, if you have set up job alerts, make sure you respond as quickly as possible after seeing the role. And also, if there's a job that's been on the platform for a long time and it's still there, it could be, but the first round of applicants were not suitable, but the next round is good. So, or you could just contact them and say, look, is the job still available? And you could be the only person competing for it then. So that can be also a great strategy. Now, the next thing is to develop a networking and referral strategy. So I've been working with people who are new to Australia since 2001. And I often say to them, the best way to get work, if you have any level of disadvantage, is through voluntary work, networking, and referrals, not by applying along with 300 other people for the 10% of jobs that are advertised. So if you network, you can go to your back end of your LinkedIn settings and you can download all your data and see everyone you're connected to. Now you could go back over your career and say, oh my goodness, there was 15 people I worked with previously who are not in my network. I need to connect with those people. If you're in business, you might like to say, well, who's on my database? Who have I invoiced? How many of these people are not in my network? That could help you. Also consider who you could reach out to, both locally and internationally. I've heard of people who've been living and working overseas, getting a referral from someone in London for a job in Melbourne. So you just go out to all the people you know and say, I'm now based here. Is there anybody you believe I could speak to for information about roles in this particular area? That's a networking opportunity. Then when you speak to that person, they can perhaps give you a referral. Then when you speak to that referral person, they can give you more ideas or another referral, but it's a great way to sort of sidetrack things. And nobody's going to refer someone they don't like. So it gives you a little bit of extra credibility to go with it as well. So that can be really helpful. Also, you can ask for brief telephone conversations, or I don't like coffee meetings. I don't have time for coffee meetings. But if you do say, look, I'd just like to chat with you for 10 minutes to get some ideas. A lot of people don't even receive phone calls now. So even that's a little bit of a unique thing, but that can lead to great things. But bear in mind, no matter what happens, you must abide by the LinkedIn user agreement. So you're not allowed to spam people. You're not allowed to automate any processes, but you can definitely find people either through LinkedIn or a Google advanced search and then reach out to these people and seek referrals. Most people are happy to help. However, the one thing I do recommend is if you meet Mary and Mary says to speak to Sam and you speak to Sam, you then need to go back to Mary and tell Mary what happened when you spoke to Sam. It's really important that you do that follow-up and say thank you for the referral, even if Sam was not able to help you. Now, the next thing is on your LinkedIn profile, on the first page where your photo is and everything, there's the open to work button, and you can fill that in with up to, I think it's 5 job titles, and you can do the different employment types. I prefer to only turn recruiters only rather than have the green frame around my face. And personally, I'm not looking for full-time work, but I've ticked all the others because I'd rather appear in search results. So even if you were only looking for a part-time role, I'd still, if you consider ticking the full-time box so you appear in search results, because the goal is to try and get in as many search results. But I flatly refuse to do full-time. So, that's just not going to work for me. So I haven't turned it on. But the goal is to appear in search results as much as you can. You can also turn this on whilst you're still in another job. And unless the person has access to LinkedIn Recruiter, they won't know that you've turned that on. So that's a little, bit of safety there, I guess. Sadly, a lot of employers still do not include salary. And there's been some research by seek.com.au in Australia, which says you get way better candidates if you put the salary in. So look, please, if you are advertising a job, put the damn salary in. You will get more candidates and you will get better candidates, even if the salary is low. Talk about the other benefits of working with the organisation. One organisation I work with is a mining company, and the person who was working there, the mining company was being merged, and they were travelling more than 50 kilometres every day into the city for this particular job because they assumed that the type of work they were doing would only be available in the city. And the reality is they had never investigated any large organisations close to where they lived. So please head off. Look at, sorry, Adina just said she's got to head off. I read that and said it instead of what I was going to say. So please consider looking at employers that are close to home because it's a huge benefit working close to home. Even if the salary is lower, you don't have the commute time, you feel more connected to your community, you meet more people in the local area, you can duck out and go home for lunch if you need to, or if there's an emergency. It just makes life so much simpler. So please consider in that job search strategy and the networking and the referrals to look for jobs that are close to where you are living. And also, the big challenge I find with a lot of people is we're all taught how to do a job. We're not taught how to find a job. They're two very different skill sets. So don't rely on what your friend said. Oh, there's no jobs around, la, 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 la. That's not true. There are, but you've got to have the job search skills. So if you're working with people, remind them it's a different skill set to find work. Final one I mentioned in this webinar is about updating your services section. Now, the choices for services are pretty average. I mean, you get 10 instead of 5, but a lot of types of expertise that you may have are not listed here. So it's a bit of a random choice, but if your skills are in there, by all means, update your services sections. You can add in pictures and videos and links to things that showcase your work. You can invite people to add reviews. You need to keep an eye out for proposals. So you're going to have to log in at least once a week and see if you've got any requests for work. And if you've got your own freelance enterprise, I created the Sue Ellson company page so that I could say I work for Sue Ellson and I've got a nice logo there. And everything I post on my personal profile, I also post on my company page. So there's a full index of everything I've posted on the company page. It means I can also create a newsletter, lots of other little perks. So I definitely encourage you to consider the services page. There may be some more relevant ones coming in the future. So these are the 10. Have you been able to find 3 things to implement from this webinar? Because I would love to know what they are. But also that means you get value out of spending your 30 minutes here. So, and also anything from now on you would like to do, like connecting with everybody, updating your LinkedIn URL, putting in as many keywords as possible, adding your subjects, adding your topics. In your experience section, make sure you put in your achievements and all of your tasks, achievements in past tense, tasks in present tense, even if it was for an old job, because it makes people understand there's all these things that you can bring. This is a list of all of the other webinars in this series. So when I first started doing them, they ran for an hour. This year I changed to half an hour. And so I try and cram in as much as I can in the 30 minutes. So feel free to check those out. You can do the online course. I had someone join up recently who told me he'd only got to section 3 and he was just blown away with how much he was able to achieve just getting up to section 3. He hadn't been looking for a job for 30 years. So that just goes to show it's very easy to understand and very easy to implement. I'll be sending you those files because you showed up live. Don't forget, you can still follow me on social media. You can check out my books. Donna's mentioned her 3. Excellent. Updating my achievements, adding my subjects, and registering for a MOOC. Excellent. Thank you so much. Beth King, thank you. Informative presentation. I appreciate the short, sharp 30 minutes. Oh my God, yes. I do so much learning, and you go to these webinars and they tell you nothing except what you could do if you bought something, and that just drives me nuts. So it takes me about 10 hours of work to put these things together in terms of promoting it and everything else. But I try and make sure that it's, definite value. Sorry, I've just lost my screen there. So the last screen was about doing a Google review. The internet connection here is a little bit unstable, but I will be opening for additional questions. So if you've got any questions you'd like to start writing in the chat, I'm happy to do that. Maybe I'll just stop the share and see your smiling faces. And feel free to just unmute, raise your hand, use the reaction button. Yes, Manisha, you can ask a question. Go for it.
So I come from a generation which is basically I'm 50 years old, and
Yep.
I come from a generation where LinkedIn was not there, and I'm just trying to improve my resume.
Hmm.
And for me, LinkedIn was just something where you have your resume and recruiters find you through LinkedIn over there.
Yep.
But having gone through your presentation, it's been a eye opener, I guess, for me
Yeah,
because
good.
yeah, it's told me many things that LinkedIn can do other than just people finding me on LinkedIn.
Correct.
So if you were to put in 4 or 5 key things that LinkedIn could help a professional to, network or whatever, that'll be great. So
Yeah, okay. So 65% of the time will be spent looking at your photograph. So you need to be smiling, looking at the camera, wearing a high neck garment so it frames your face, and having your eyes on the one third line and your hair at the top of the circle. I notice a lot of people from other countries have very serious looking faces. It doesn't work in Australia. You know, you need to be smiling and you need to convey your energy. It's not about your age. It's about the energy and the excitement that you bring, because you sort of got to exaggerate your smile a little bit because it's only two dimensional. So great photo. Second thing would be your headline. So I have a headline formula which starts off with your label, what you most want to be found for. So mine is independent LinkedIn specialist, and then your keywords in priority order after that. So if you want to be found for a job, I don't know, as a mechanical engineer, and you don't mention mechanical engineer in your headline, you're really shooting yourself in the foot. Like you don't just say, looking for my next opportunity. Nobody's going to search for that. They're going to look for mechanical engineer or whatever it is. So fill your headline with keywords. But if you look at my LinkedIn profile is optimized and I get over 1,000 views per 90 days. And that's because I've put keywords in lots of spots throughout my LinkedIn profile. So if you look at mine and you look at yours, you'll be able to see the pro forma and you can just interpret it that way and do it yourself. Um, as I said before, if you're not getting 100 views per 90 days and 50 appearances in search results, it's not working. So it needs some work. And then obviously, the more connections you have, that's going to help. So, reach out to people and follow the companies where you'd really like to work. That'd probably be my main ones. Yeah.
yeah,
Fiona's asked when the
thanks a
keywords you
lot.
mentioned.
Thanks a lot. So that's
No, you're
really
welcome. Thank you. The keywords, the best spot to put the keywords is your headline. That's number one spot. Then your current job, then all your previous jobs, in your education, and then in the experience and about. And that's only based on search results. So if you go looking for something, you'll see in the search results where those keywords are, and that gives you the clues as to where the keywords are most important to be. So you also need to think about what would somebody be searching for. So many years ago, when I was running a website creation course, there was a guy there who ran the Northcote Music School. Now, if I want to learn how to play the piano, will I say to myself, I have to look for the Northcote Music School? Heck no. I'm going to look for piano lessons or piano classes or piano tutor or something like that. So you need to use keywords that will be used by the person looking for that type of role. And if you're not in that role yet, say you've just finished your university course, you're a graduate, then you can say you're an aspiring accountant. So then you will appear in a search result for accountant, but when the person looks at it, they'll say you're an aspiring or future accountant, and they'll know, okay, might not have the experience yet, but they want an accounting role. So that's another way to do it. Now, the final tip I'd give to you is the platform favors people who already have a job, not the people who don't have a job. So let's say your role finished in March and you've been looking for a job, for the last 2 months. That means that your old job finished in March and now you don't have a job on the platform. So, what I suggest you do is add a job called career research, accountant, da 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 da, and list your employer as various, but don't choose the employer. And then fill in all the details as if you were an accountant, the things that you would be doing, what sorts of things you've been doing, whether you've been in some short courses, fill it all in because as far as the algorithm is concerned, you are working and that will help you appear in those search results as well. Jenny said, "You are very generous, Sue. Thank you for sharing your knowledge." Yes, Jenny, I pride myself on my generosity. I have been doing an amazing amount of voluntary free things my whole life, and I don't ever plan to stop because the other benefit of doing it is it keeps you up to date. And it means that you have to keep providing new things. And so it means ultimately that I'm able to provide a better service to my paying clients as well. So I think everyone should do some voluntary work. It's got lots of benefits. And yeah, thank you for that comment. Any other questions? And if you want to ask me a quick question directly, you can do it via message on LinkedIn. You can email me. You can contact me directly. You don't have to announce it in front of everyone else if you prefer. All good? You can just unmute or raise your hand. All right. Well, I did say 30 minutes and it's 12:35. So thank you for joining me, whether you're listening to the recording or live. My great pleasure to be here. The next month's presentation will be 10 ways to improve LinkedIn recruiting. So I'm looking forward to that one as well. So thank you from Sydney and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.